How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. I am delighted to have you. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number is 877-973-7425 if you want to be on the program. If you text Eric to 33777, you can get the show notes, the live stream, the podcast, everything you need. I really do hope that you might text the word Army to 33777 and put in your contact info so we can reach out to you as we start going around the country. We have 56 days, 12 hours, 52 minutes until the election is over. We are less than 60 days away till the voting starts. Praise Jesus, it's almost here. We're going through a political realignment in the country. I want to start with the Cheney endorsement. It should not have the news that it has, but of course it does, in part because the American Press Corps wants to highlight such a dramatic shift. In 2020, Liz Cheney called Kamala Harris a radical progressive, too far left. She and her father, Dick Cheney, and the Cheney family have now come together to endorse Kamala Harris. Unlike many of my friends on the right, I'm not going to attack the Cheneys. I actually think very highly of the Cheneys. I know Liz not well. I know her parents. And I'm not going to attack them. I just fundamentally disagree with them. I understand why, though. We do a poor job, I think, these days of putting ourselves in other people's shoes. If you can for just a minute, consider that there are people in the country, maybe not you, but there are people in the country who view January 6th as absolutely disqualifying. I have good friends of mine who cannot vote for Donald Trump because of January 6th. I have good friends of mine who cannot vote for Kamala Harris because of how she bailed out the people in jail who were burning down the small businesses in Wisconsin and Minneapolis and St. Paul. There are moments where some people decide, you know what, this is disqualifying. And for the Cheneys, what happened on January 6th was disqualifying. You can say, well, Donald Trump also beat up Liz Cheney. He didn't like her. She didn't like him. It's personal. You can say whatever you want, but the fact of the matter is this. Democrats, up until 5 seconds ago, considered Dick Cheney a war criminal. And now suddenly he's a great patriot. Dick Cheney has restored himself in the eyes of the Democrats, not the left. They still hate his guts. But he's restored himself in the eyes of the Democratic Party by coming out and saying he's supporting Kamala Harris. What very cheap dates the Democrats are. For years, you maligned this guy, and then he says he'll vote for your candidate and all is forgiven. You know, deep down, it's not. They still don't like him, but this is the politics of convenience. And both sides, by the way, play the politics of convenience. But what I find more notable is that the Republican Party of today is not the Republican Party of the Bush era and the Cheney era. By the way, I want to tell you my theory. This is one of my oldest and longest held views in politics. We would not have Donald Trump right now, nor would we have the problems in American politics we're facing right now had Dick Cheney run for president in 2008. Hear me out on this. After a president serves 2 terms, typically his vice president runs and winds up losing. And both the party itself of that candidate and the nation as a whole are able to engage in a referendum on that presidency. Had Dick Cheney run in 2008 against John McCain, Dick Cheney would have undoubtedly become the Republican nominee. And the party of Bush would have become the party of Cheney. Now, ultimately, what happened is Dick Cheney chose not to run for health, age, and all sorts of other reasons, chose not to run. So we had to, as a Republican Party, reopen the wounds from the 2000 primary that was a deeply nasty primary. And, of course, the media history will show, ultimately, the media blamed George W. Bush and praised John McCain, but actually it was the McCain camp that waged a ruthless, nasty war of attrition, trying to wrest control of the party away from the Bushes, and ultimately they failed, and it left some lasting wounds in the party that healed during the course of the Bush administration, and in 2008, those wounds were reopened. And you had Mitt Romney running to the right, along with Fred Thompson and others, against John McCain, who was running as kind of the mushy moderate. And John McCain won because everyone else divided the conservative base. And what was so funny about it is Mitt Romney was running to the right. Well, Mitt Romney then in 2012 ran as the moderate, and all the conservatives split the vote, and Romney won by running as the McCain of 2012. And all those wounds reopened and festered, and the conservatives divided themselves up in such a way that they couldn't win. And in the process of doing so, had to refight fights going back to the year 2000. And by the year 2016, everybody was fighting with each other in the Republican Party. They all felt like the Republican leaders had betrayed them. The Republican senators and the Republican members of the House were cutting deals with Barack Obama. They were driving up spending. They weren't standing firm. And along comes Donald Trump. Says, I'm going to smash every idol in the Republican Party. And I'm going to be the bull in the china shop. And I'm going to remake the Republican Party in my image. And a lot of Republicans said, okay, let's go. And they did it all because Dick Cheney did not run in 2008. So the party was not able to have a referendum on the George W. Bush legacy. And so it festered, and the frustration built over the war, the conduct of the war, and everything that followed until 2016, when George W. Bush's brother Jeb ran, and finally the party could have the referendum they had wanted to have had Dick Cheney run, and they had it with Jeb Bush, who raised and spent more money than anybody else in that race and lost. And the party successfully decided it had moved beyond the Bushes. So, of course, there's a level of political realignment in this country now. Many of the well-to-do, white, college-educated voters who used to align with the Republicans are now Democrats. Many of the working-class Democratic Party voters have shifted over to the Republican side. In fact, for all the bellyaching and cheering several weeks ago when some polling suggested that Kamala Harris had seen the working class shift in her direction, it's not actually true. All the polling since, including the recent New York Times Siena College poll that shows Donald Trump beating her by a point, shows the working class is dramatically moving towards the GOP. In Georgia, in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, the white working class is moving to the GOP in ways we haven't seen since the Reagan era. So the Cheneys, who have been lifelong rock-ribbed Republicans, find themselves at a point where the party dynamics have shifted. And they, whether you like them or not, care about the country. They view Donald Trump as an existential threat to the country, in large part because of January 6th. And so they've decided they're going to vote for Kamala Harris. They should have decided to sit it out. George W. Bush released a statement after the Cheneys came out for Harris and says, I'm just staying out of it. Good for him. He doesn't have to. But you've got the Cheneys now with the Democrats. You have Robert F. Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard with Donald Trump. We're in a very weird political realignment. And so for a lot of Americans, you don't quite know where you belong. You like some of this with the one party, you like some of that with the other party. You don't feel like you belong to either party, which is one of the reasons the number of self-identified independents continues to go up in this country. People don't want to be in a cult of personality like they feel like Donald Trump has, but they don't like Kamala Harris's progressive values and politics. So maybe they show up, maybe they vote for Trump and hold their nose, maybe they vote for Trump and cheer, maybe they just don't vote. I've gotten beat up a lot by Trump supporters for telling people, if you just can't bring yourself to vote for Donald Trump, just leave that line blank. Don't go vote for Harris. They're interpreting me as encouraging people not to vote for Trump. Well, if you can't vote for Trump, if you philosophically decided you can't, as I would tell the Cheneys, don't vote for Kamala Harris, because Kamala Harris doesn't care that you're voting for her to stop Donald Trump. What she's going to interpret it as an affirmation for her policies. So if you don't like Harris, but you can't vote for Trump, just leave that line blank instead of giving your vote to Harris, who's going to treat it as an endorsement of her policies, even though that's not why you would vote for her. And I think the Cheneys probably should have, the wiser course would have been, we do not want a progressive revolution in this country, which we'll get with Kamala Harris, but we don't like Trump, so we're going to just leave the line blank. That would, I think, have more impact and probably encourage more people. I just don't think, despite what the media is saying, I do not think you're going to see a massive wave of people go vote for Kamala Harris because Dick Cheney is. I don't think these endorsements matter. In the same way, there's been no polling bump for Donald Trump from an RFK Jr. endorsement. There's not going to be a polling bump for Kamala Harris for a Cheney endorsement. In fact, there might actually be some people who say, oh my God, if this is Dick Cheney, he was a war criminal, I'm not going to vote for Kamala Harris now. She might lose some votes over the Cheney endorsement. But the media, of course, loves this because the media despises Donald Trump and the Republican Party under Donald Trump. And so though they hated Dick Cheney, the fact that it's too much for Dick Cheney, they can say, well, I mean, if it's too much for him, it should be too much for anybody. They don't like Cheney. When Dick Cheney dies, I will memorialize him as a patriot who loved his country. Because he does, by the way. You may disagree with him, but Dick Cheney was the guy in the Bush White House who pushed the Bush White House to the right. History will show, and I have plenty of friends, including some diehard Republican conservative members of Congress who y'all love, who will tell you that back in the 2000s, Cheney led the conservative resistance to some of the Bush project in the White House, including trying to scuttle No Child Left Behind, among other things. Dick Cheney is a committed conservative. He's a committed patriot. He's a loving father. I will say nothing ill about Dick Cheney or Liz, who I know and like. I just fundamentally disagree with them on this. Fundamentally disagree with them. And I think they want people to hear and understand and process that they believe January 6th is so disqualifying, they've got to side with people they don't like in order to stop what they view as an existential threat in Donald Trump. I disagree with them for this reason. I think if Kamala Harris gets elected, she will view their endorsement not as a rejection of Trump, but as an affirmation of her. And it will encourage her to do those bold things that she says she'll do, like pack the Supreme Court, try to get rid of the filibuster in the Senate, impose abortion rights nationwide, force boys into girls' sports, and deny school funding for schools that refuse to go along with it, take away tax-exempt status for churches that don't go along with her agenda, confiscate guns. I think Kamala Harris is a bridge too far politically. And I think sometimes we get so myopically focused on just this one thing we hate so much, we can't see all these other things. It would have been better, I think, for them to have just opted out and said, can't support Trump, but I'm not supporting her. She's radical. But I understand if they did that, they would view themselves as tacitly suggesting to some people, some of you would say tacitly, going with Donald Trump. So they wanted to make a big deal about Kamala Harris. The bottom line, however, is this. It's not going to make a difference. Dick Cheney voting for Kamala Harris is not going to persuade a large amount of people to go to Kamala Harris. The media is giving it disproportionate coverage. And actually, I think given the way the media has packaged Dick Cheney over the last 20 years, it might actually hurt Harris more than help Harris. But at the end of the day, there are not going to be enough Americans to even poll who are going to say, Dick and Liz Cheney are going for Kamala Harris. I guess I should as well. The only people it helps are the people who already decided to vote for Harris, just affirming that, well, they're on Dick Cheney's side, which will probably leave them scratching their head.
Blinds.com Cyber Monday Last Chance is happening now. Don't miss out on up to 45% off site-wide. A Blinds.com design expert can help you make the perfect selection on your schedule. We can handle everything from measure to your whole home installed for one low cost. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Save up to 45% site-wide, plus a free professional measure right now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
AI might be the most important new computer technology ever. It's storming every industry. Everybody's talking about it. Billions of dollars invested, so buckle up. The problem is AI needs a lot of speed and processing power. So how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing, and of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less, like Uber, 8x8, Databricks, Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/Erickson, ERICKSON. That's oracle.com/Erickson. Oracle.com/Erickson. Go check them out today. Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. I hope you're doing well. The phone number is 877-973-7425 should you wish to be on the program. Kamala Harris bought spices in Philadelphia. It's become a huge, huge story in light of her taking no substantive policy positions. This is actually the headline from the Associated Press. Harris turns to her favorite foods in effort to show a more private side and connect with voters. It is known that Harris is a foodie and likes to cook. In fact, she had just made a pancakes and bacon breakfast for her nieces, 6 and 8-year-old daughters on the July morning when Biden called with the news he was dropping out of the race. Wow. An entire story about Harris's food choices because they can't talk about any of her public policy positions. And by the way, no one's able to verify that she actually worked at a McDonald's. But, I want to read you a tweet from Pinsey Spices that she thanked them for her spices that she bought the other day that kicked off the stories about her cooking. This is a tweet from Pinsey Spices founder, or a message from Pinsey Spices founder last year. Quote, "Find a way to send the Jewish people in your life some sort of hug in this time of Hanukkah. Text them a photo of a couple sleeping bags up in your attic with the message you'll always have a place for them." Yes, that's where Kamala bought her spices she was so happy about. Wow. Now, I want you to buy your computers from Vision Computers. You'll really actually be happy with them. Not only do they save you money, they build you a better machine than you're going to get at the one-size-fits-all big box store, and you get their 5-star customer service included with it, where you get a special phone number. If you ever have a question, not just a problem, but a question about how do I do something on this machine, hold time's less than 15 seconds, and you get the answer. You go to visioncomputers.com or 404-COMPUTE, and you call them. You get that computer built with them, and then you get their award-winning customer service. Now, here's the thing as well. Let's say you need their customer service because your employees are not productive because they got computer problems, and you can't afford the in-house IT guy. For $179 a year per computer, Vision Computers can take over your IT support. So your employees get that same phone number where they wait less than 15 seconds to get an answer. from someone who knows what they're doing, so your employees are productive about their jobs and Vision's productive with your computers. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. Give them a call today. Tell them I sent you. You can save even more money. 404-COMPUTE. Any one of you nationwide. 404-COMPUTE. Greetings and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, happy to have you. We should probably talk about the debate. One of the things that rich, highly educated white people like is the idea of Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg running as a ticket. My gosh, the number of highly educated white people when Joe Biden dropped out who are like, oh, it should be Harris Buttigieg. In addition to, I don't think the country is actually ready for a black female presidential candidate and a gay white man running together. That's just probably a little bit too much progress for most Americans to handle at one time, if we're really honest about it. I also happen to know for a fact, behind the scenes, Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg do not like each other. They do not like each other, going back to their time running against each other in 2019. And so I thought it was very funny that Pete Buttigieg, who decided to play the role of good surrogate for the campaign, kind of undermined Kamala Harris this weekend. And it hasn't gotten a lot of attention, but I think it's very funny. But let me set the stage for you first. This is the conversation on ABC News. Just so you understand, I left a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor today in terms of audio and video because so much of it is repetitious. But I want you to hear this conversation on ABC News from this weekend with Martha Raddatz talking about the campaign state of play for the debate.
And how, Mary, so obviously the Harris team has studied that debate and the other debates. Bring us inside the kind of prep they're doing.
Well, they are taking this very, very seriously, taking a very different, in fact, basically the opposite approach to Donald Trump. She is hunkered down in Pittsburgh. She is studying up. She is doing these mock debates. They've erected a stage. They're doing the full TV lighting. They have a lot of actually the people who prepped Hillary Clinton for that debate now involved in this. Clinton's former aide, Philippe Reines, is playing Donald Trump, and he goes full method actor, really inhabiting the role. And they are quick to note that, yes, Kamala Harris is an experienced debater, but this is different because, of course, Trump has a lot of experience at this. This is the first time she's faced off with Trump. The first time she's done a presidential debate. Actually, the first time she will actually come face to face with Trump. They have never met, in part, of course, because Donald Trump did not participate in the peaceful transfer of power, of course, during the last election. So this is a lot of new territory for her. The goal that the campaign has, of course, is for her to continue to define herself, do that before Trump can do that for her, and then to pivot and go on the attack. They are very concerned about that Trump amnesia, as they describe it, that voters have sort of forgotten some of the chaos of the Trump years. She wants to highlight what she believes is his failed record and then attack. And look, Kamala Harris is someone who knows how to land a punch, and she punches hard, but she has to pick those moments. She's also someone who we know rehearses those attack lines, workshops those attack lines.
But sometimes they appear rehearsed. Sometimes they appear
it's a careful balance that she has to achieve.
Now, first of all, could you tell that was a reporter, or did you think it was a Harris spokesperson? That was supposedly a reporter who sure does sound all giddy about Kamala Harris debating Donald Trump, but also lowering the expectations a little bit. She's never been on a debate stage like this. She's never been in the room with Donald Trump. She hasn't had as many debates as Donald Trump. And this is the talking point from Democrats across the board with this coming debate is that, well, she's never had a debate like this. Donald Trump's debated more than any other presidential candidate. This is new for her. This is new territory for her. We shouldn't expect much from Kamala Harris because Donald Trump, even with the microphones cut, is going to talk over her. Kamala Harris is not good at debates. She's great at being a prosecutor. This format is terrible for her. So if she just gets by, she'll have won the debate. These are the sorts of messages Democrats are screaming about on television, setting the debate as low as possible for Kamala Harris. And then comes our boy Pete Buttigieg.
She's somebody who is extremely smart about getting to the core of an issue. That's what made her so effective as a DA, as a prosecutor, then as Attorney General, and of course as Vice President. And one of the things I remember from those debate preparations when I was involved supporting her team 4 years ago was anytime some issue area or topic came up, we were kicking around statistics, ideas, arguments. She'd always take it back to the question of, okay, how is this going to affect somebody at home? And I think that's especially important right now with some of the issues at stake right now.
Oh, yes. Yes, she's a great debater. She brings it back. She gets to the core of the problem. She relates it to people. Good old Pete setting expectations for Kamala Harris so he can run in 4 years. Wow. Yeah, they don't care for each other. Y'all, it's not a coincidence in the press over the last 3 years that if a negative story came out on Pete Buttigieg, a negative story about Kamala Harris was shortly to follow. Or if a negative story about Kamala Harris came out, a negative story about Buttigieg was soon to follow. And now he's out on the campaign trail, as everybody's trying to lower expectations for Kamala Harris. Well, she's never really debated at this level. This is the biggest debate stage she's ever been. She's never been in the room with Donald Trump. She doesn't know what it's like with Donald Trump. Oh, she gets right to the core of the problem. She always relates it to the middle class. She's gonna do great. Good job, Pete. Good job, Pete. Here's the thing. The expectations games like these endorsements, I think, are somewhat silly. Endorsements really don't matter that much. The Cheneys endorsing Kamala Harris really doesn't matter that much. Robert Kennedy Jr. endorsing Donald Trump might persuade 12 people to vote for Donald Trump. It really doesn't matter that much. Endorsements don't matter. If Taylor Swift comes out tomorrow and endorses Kamala Harris, it's not actually going to matter that much. More people will scream about it on the right than will actually be persuaded to vote for Kamala Harris because Taylor Swift says so. Not that that's going to happen. I don't know if you saw, by the way, but progressives are really upset that Taylor Swift was seen hugging Brittany Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes' wife, at the Kansas City football game because, Mahomes said she's voting for Donald Trump, or she retweeted something of Donald Trump's favorably. Sounds like she's a Trump supporter. How dare Taylor Swift hug her? People just can't be friends. Y'all should see the number of people who've already emailed me in the last 10 minutes for saying I wasn't going to say anything bad about Dick Cheney, that I liked the guy even if I disagreed with him. Good Lord, you're not allowed to have friends on the other side. If you disagree with them, you can't say nice things about people anymore. It's the world we live in. But it's not going to impact anything. And I don't think the pre-gaming of the debate or the post-gaming of the debate is going to matter that much either. Look, this is one of the things that people do for these debates. They set expectations. And the way that they set the expectations is these conversations in the press, and they are designed to set the expectations not for you. They talk about it as if the expectations are being set for you. That's not true at all. The expectations are being set for the reporters who will cover the debate on how they will cover the debate. So, for example, when all the talking heads go on television and say, well, actually, Kamala Harris has never debated at this level before. She's never been on a presidential debate stage before, blah, 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 blah. That's not for you and me. That's to signal to the reporters after she screws up the debate how to handle it for her. So once Kamala Harris has screwed up the debate, it'll be, well, this was her very first debate, and this is the only debate, and she had the opportunity, and I wonder if the American people will remember she's never had this debate before, so maybe we should have another debate. Donald Trump, of course, is going to wing it. Donald Trump does not do formal debate prep, never has done real formal debate prep, and I don't know. He's talked to Tulsi Gabbard, apparently, but it's not going to be significant. But at the same time, we now also know why Kamala Harris tried to get the microphones turned on. Turns out the microphones were for Kamala Harris, not for Donald Trump. You see, remember, so first they harassed Donald Trump saying that, why are you going to back out of the debate? And Donald Trump's like, I agreed to debate Joe Biden, not Kamala Harris. And they bullied Donald Trump. He says, fine, we'll do the debate. And once Donald Trump gets to the debate, Kamala Harris says, wait a second, I don't want the microphones to be off. I want the microphones to be on the whole time. And Trump's like, no, these were the rules that we agreed to. Kamala Harris is like, well, I didn't agree to them. Joe Biden did. Well, I didn't agree to debate you. I agreed to vote Joe Biden. So she's had to cave. The rules for this debate tomorrow are straightforward. There will be no microphones turned on for you when the other person's talking, and there will be no crowd. There will be no notes, and there will be no checking in with staff during the 2 breaks. There are only 2 breaks. Most people, when Kamala Harris started saying she wanted the microphones to be turned on, the interpretation was this. She wanted the microphones to be turned on so Donald Trump would lack self-control and talk over her and try to bully her and make himself look bad. Turns out that is not why she wanted the microphones on at all. This is from Politico. Kamala Harris had planned to object, fact-check, and directly question Donald Trump while he was speaking during their debate next week. This is a report that came out the other day. But now, the rules just finalized to mute the candidates when their opponent speaks. Campaign officials said Harris advisors are scrambling to rewrite their playbook. Harris and her team wanted unmuted microphones so that the vice president could lean on her prosecutorial background, confronting the former president in the same way she laced into some of Trump's Supreme Court nominees and cabinet members during Senate hearings. Instead, 4 Harris campaign officials argued she will be handcuffed by the rules which were negotiated by President Joe Biden's team earlier this summer. Trump's worst moments in the debates are when he gets upset and snaps, says an aide to Harris. And they have neutered that. Some Democrats privately dismissed the Harris campaign's frustration as largely gamesmanship and expectation setting around Tuesday's debate in Philadelphia. But others say the rules change, and her limited experience in national general election debates and interviews since becoming the party's nominee could affect Harris's debate performance. I will call you back to the report from the New York Times on February of 2023. The painful reality for Harris is that dozens of Democrats in the White House, Capitol Hill, and around the nation said she has not risen to the challenge of proving herself as a future leader of the party, much less the country. That's from 2023. Can't teach an old dog new tricks. We'll see just how much she's able to pull this off. The fact that her campaign thought they would be able to bully ABC News into changing the microphone rules to her advantage is probably the tell that this is a campaign already in over its head, that they thought they could get away with that, having the rules previously been agreed to. That tells me that the Harris campaign isn't as ready for prime time as they would have us all believe, which is confirmed by her refusal to do any substantive interviews and instead rely on cooking and joy, the joy of cooking, to be her campaign theme. Now, we got interest rates that may be cut here shortly by the Fed. We don't know, but we've got all sorts of banking turmoil. The yield curve has uninverted, which tends to be a sign of an imminent downturn in the economy. Swiss America has been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years, and they've been warning people about a secret war on cash for some time. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash from the secret war on cash, you need their report. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. Their report takes less than 15 minutes to read. Can help you save your retirement and finances. Get your free report by calling or texting 800-289-2646. The all-out war on cash includes digital forms of currency as well. Here's all you need to know is you text my name or call Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to the number 800-289-2646. Just text my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 800-289-2646. You can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, SwissAmerica.com/ERICK, or call or text my name, Eric, to 800-289-2646. Get Swiss America's report, Secret War on Cash, completely for free. Message and data rates may apply. Greetings and welcome. This hour of the program brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. Wherever you are nationwide, if you're in charge of the finances for a business, you're building a building or you need a heavy equipment loan, they can make it happen. FirstLibertyGA.com. Reach out to them. Spend 10 minutes with them. See if they're fit for you. See if you're fit for them. FirstLibertyGA.com. Now, let me take Mitchell's phone call here. Mitchell, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for taking my call there.
Sure.
So I just wanted your opinion on something. So it seems like to me if someone were in the position that Kamala Harris was in, and I guess the things that she promises that she's going to do on her commercials, the tax cuts, the billionaires paying their fair shares and all of that, would she not be in a position to go ahead and have the current administration to pull the trigger on all that stuff to prove to the American people that she can actually do this stuff? Or why wouldn't she go ahead? It seems like the best campaign tool ever to actually show us before the election how good it's going to be should she were elected. So,
look, I think she should, but I don't think she's going to. In fact, so Ross Douthat has a piece of the New York Times. He and David Brooks wrote competing pieces. David Brooks took the position of here's why Donald Trump won. And so Ross Douthat has taken the here's why Kamala Harris won. And Ross Douthat makes the point that Harris, by refusing to take positions, actually allows the Democratic Party to unite along with a lot of independents because nobody's got to worry over how woke she's going to be. You can just hate Donald Trump and you don't have to worry about fighting over positions. So I actually don't think that Harris wants to talk about anything she has or has not done. And I think most members of the media don't actually want to explore it with her. And the reason I say that is because if the members of the media explore what Kamala Harris has or has not done with her, it exposes her failures of what she could have done and chose not to do. And they don't want to do that because that might help Donald Trump. So instead, they've got to talk about her cooking and her recipes and her joy. Her joy. They really could call her entire campaign the joy of cooking. Now, there would be a copyright issue there, certainly with the cookbook, but that's essentially it. They want to talk about her cooking when they talk about her joy. They don't want to talk about the border. They don't want to talk about inflation. They don't want to talk about crime. They don't want to talk about the migrants eating the ducks and the geese. Have y'all heard about this in Ohio? Now, there's been some serious misrepresentations from people on the right we'll get into about people eating cats and stuff. That's not true. But, yeah, actually, there are migrants from Haiti in this town in Ohio that are, like, chopping off the heads of ducks in the local parks to cook them. Can they make a good Peking duck? Do the Haitians know how to make a Peking? Because I'd be down with that, but I bet these ducks would be gamey tasting. Nonetheless, I digress. It's a true story, but also with some misrepresentation we'll get into. But when we come back, I want to talk about the SAVE Act. My buddy Chip Roy, member of Congress, is proposing the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act would require that the states affirmatively check the citizenship status of those registering to vote in federal elections. And Democrats are opposed to it. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, intends to make it his hill to die on for the continuing resolution. The Democrats want a clean continuing resolution. Senate Republicans want a clean continuing resolution. I actually do think Republicans need to fight like hell on this. I want to explain the actual intricacies of the law to you because it's a little more complicated than you might think given the federal nature of our elections. So when we come back, stick around. I want to explain to you what the SAVE Act does and why I think Republicans should be willing to have a government shutdown if the Democrats don't want to support it. Because frankly, I think Republicans can win the messaging on this government shutdown should it come about because of the SAVE Act. Because who on earth could oppose the idea, particularly when we know there's actually documentary proof illegal aliens have attempted to vote in federal elections? They say it's rare. Rare means it has happened. I'll give you the facts when we come back.